This weekend on the original Rochester Press Box.
I'm Roland Williams, and I'm going to tell you why a backup quarterback can be the best thing that ever happened for your football team.
I'm John DiTullio. Although the waiting is the hardest part, the payoff is incredible. I'll explain.
I'm Dan Moriarty, and Phil Mickelson's got to shut up and take some accountability for the way he's playing golf.
And I'm Bill Pucko, remembering Al McGuire. Join us all this week on the Rochester Press Box. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the original Rochester Press Box. Bill Pucko with you here, flanked by the WHTK guys. John DiTullio.
Billy, it's great to be back.
Dan Moriarty, who's sitting in for Cats, Mike Catalana.
Thanks for having me.
And it is our pleasure to welcome in the great Roland Williams, Super Bowl champion, East High class of 1993. Roland, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here.
Hey, we've been talking a lot of football. This is going to be a big-time football show in your honor. We've been talking a lot of football this week because the Buffalo Bills have made a change of quarterback. Kyle Orton goes in, E.J. Manuel goes out. What do you anticipate that doing for the team?
I think it's going to make the team better. When you watch the film and you watch what E.J. Manuel did out there, it was gross. There were plays out there where I didn't know if he was an NFL quarterback. I didn't know if he was a big-time Division I quarterback. Some of those throws and decisions wouldn't have worked at the high school level. So when a guy sort of goes in the tank like that, it demoralizes the rest of the team. You got a defense that's busting their hump out there trying to be better. Special teams working hard. And receivers, Watkins, these guys are great playmakers. And a quarterback plays like a scrub. As a coach, you got to get the morale going by getting a guy that won't just kill a game for you. And that's what I think that putting in the other guy will do. He won't kill you. He might not win it, but he won't kill you.
It proves they're all in, Bill. They're all in. We talked about they're all in with the trade for Sammy Watkins. Doug Marrone and Doug Willie are coaching and GMing, if that's the right term, for their jobs. This is to send a clear message, number one, that EJ, to pile on what Roland just said, is not the guy. And number two, we owe it to the veterans on this team. We owe it to ourselves and the community to upgrade at quarterback. So, Kyle Orton's not Aaron Rodgers, but I know this. He's a lot better than E.J. Manuel.
What do you think is going to happen this week?
Well, and they did it at the right time, too.
Yeah.
If you do it in a couple of weeks and they're 2-4 and you're out, and your season's basically over at that point, you're not going to turn anything around, then what's the use of making the change? Who cares? But 2-2, the division's wide open. They would have had no chance going into Detroit with the way E.J. Manuel is playing. And I mean, let's be honest. Not only is he shaky in terms of confidence, the confidence is gone. You could tell, like Roland said, by watching the guy play, he's got no confidence out there. So if his confidence is shot, the offense has no chance. Whereas now, new guy in, Kyle Orton's in there. They've at least seen this guy practice. They know the history that he's had. Like Roland said, he's not a great player, but he's not going to make the big mistake. He's a guy that can at least get it done. They have a chance to win in Detroit now. I don't know if they will, but they got a chance, something they wouldn't have had with E.J. Manuel quarterback.
In your history, Roland, have quarterback changes made a difference to the teams you played on?
They've worked out pretty well in my career. You see, I played for the St. Louis Rams, and we had this quarterback named Trent Green. Nice guy, heck of a playmaker, good human being. He tore his knee up, and in came a quarterback named Kurt Warner. Nice guy, but played a lot better. Worked out pretty good for me.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's inconsequential. My first year with the Rams, we had a quarterback named Tony Banks. He had this pit bull named Felony. It was pretty interesting stuff. He wasn't getting the job done. They put in a quarterback named Steve Bono. Remember Steve Bono?
Oh, yeah.
See, he was a good guy. He just didn't. He didn't do as many turnovers, and that gave you a chance.
Is the dynamic different when a guy gets replaced because he's not playing up to standards versus an injury?
Absolutely. When you get hurt, that's a tough part of the game. And you just hope that the guy that comes in can be up to par. But when a guy's not playing well, I mean, you don't even want to talk to him at lunchtime. You don't want to be around the guy. His energy is, and he's sobbing and pouting. And, you see that body language that EJ was showing. That's the stuff that you don't want. Hey, I can make a mistake in a game, but keep your swag, keep your dignity, man. And when you lose that, it's time to change up and get another guy.
I might worry more about a guy who's got swagger when he's playing horribly. We got the Bills playing at Detroit next, and we'll discuss that next when the original Rochester Press Box continues.
don't need to be Native American to realize it is offensive. And it's not politically correct. It's the right thing to do.
He was an idiot for throwing him that pitch. The guy's phenomenal. He had no reason to give him anything, especially a fastball to hit.
It's simply that these two guys, Ronaldo and Tom Brady, are too good looking.
I like it, just don't admit to it.
Everybody wants to hate on the best in the world. You know, he's here to stay, and he wants to build something big time.
The bottom line is, still nobody's going to like A-Rod.
Welcome back to the original Rochester Press Box. Bill, John, Dan, and our special guest, Roland Williams. Big week for you back in town this week, Roland.
Absolutely. I'm back because I love football and it's football season, but I'm also back working on a project to help young men here in the city of Rochester. It's called the Champion Academy, and we got a lot of good stuff coming up. Monday night, we have a lock-in at Monday Night Football at Bathtub Billy's. It's awesome, so it's good stuff. The Champion Academy.
Let's get into the Bills game. They're at Detroit this week, and they're a touchdown underdog. What do you see?
I'm sorry, guys. The Bills aren't going to win that game. Detroit is loaded. Obviously, Megatron is a playmaker, and Detroit's hungry to prove something. I look for Detroit to win that game by more than 2 touchdowns.
Pretty precise. Danny, what do you think? The Lions are one of those teams that you can never really get a beat on, but those teams, and Cincinnati has been there, you know, Atlanta has kind of been there, that play really well at home.
Yes, they're good at home, and I think, I mean, last week I didn't necessarily trust them, but they're proven to be a little bit of a different Lions team so far this year, because every time you kind of jump on the Lions bandwagon, they let you down. Although I think with the Bills making the quarterback move, it puts everybody else on watch too. I mean, if you can sit your quarterback, the guy you drafted in the first round last year, guys like Eric Pierce, who's playing horrible right now, is obviously on watch. Other guys on the offense and guys on the defense as well. So, I mean, they got to come out and play as a unit better, but now that they got Kyle Orton in there, I don't think the Bills win, but I do think they keep it close against a good Lions team on the road. The Lions are better offensively with more weapons, but man, they're a lot better when Megatron's fully healthy, and he wasn't last week.
All right, I had asked you on the radio about, I was interested in how the line would be affected by the quarterback change to Buffalo. Actually, Detroit is giving a half a point more. That line is, they have less respect for Buffalo.
Well, Orton hasn't played. I mean, let's face it, he hasn't thrown a ball since, the Eagles game last December. So I don't expect him to come out and set the world on fire today. But they will look better offensively as this game goes on. They've got a couple issues. That defensive front of the Lions is nasty.
Exactly.
It is nasty.
That's what I'm
And Jim Caldwell, his influence on Matthew Stafford, you're seeing it right now. Detroit, they're not being penalized as much as they were a year ago. Stafford's not making mistakes, although they're 3-1. I think Detroit makes less mistakes today. I think their defensive front really contains the Bills' offensive front, if that makes sense. I like the Lions today to win by 10.
Give us a secondary game you like this week.
I gotta like Denver Broncos. They're at home. They're playing. They're giving up some points against the Arizona Cardinals. And the Arizona Cardinals are an up-and-coming team in the NFC West. I respect them. I played against them many times in my career. But good gracious, the Denver Broncos are just starting to get into high gear. And that tight end, boy, I'm a fan of a tight end. And good gracious almighty. Peyton, you just keep on showing me that you know how to get guys going. Look for Denver Broncos to win that game by more than 2 touchdowns again.
Danny, give us one.
I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys. I didn't buy this team coming into the season. Great offensive line. DeMarco Murray's a monster at running back. They've got good skill people. Tony Romo had a terrible game week 1. He's been great ever since. I'm not buying that defense.
Did you say great?
But I don't think he's been great ever since that week 1 game. I'm not buying that defense, but it's not going to matter this week against Houston. Nothing against, again, their skill people are good, but Arian Foster isn't healthy. Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's prone for the turnover. And I just don't buy Houston. After watching them against the Bills last week, they did everything in their power to give that game to the Bills, and the Bills didn't take it. So I'm going to take the Cowboys this week over Houston.
I'm taking the Jets with a touchdown at San Diego. There's always a game that looks goofy. That's the one, so I'm picking them. John?
I'm picking the Giants at home. Back-to-back road games for the Falcons. As Roland will tell you, back-to-back road games in the NFL, brutal.
Yes.
Falcons they were on the road last week in Minnesota. Ben McAdoo and Eli Manning now maybe have found a little rhythm. Plus 10 days off for the Giants. They played a week ago Thursday.
Nice.
So they'll have 10 days off. I like the Giants at
Did
home.
anybody play the Bills to cover? Were we all on Detroit?
Yes.
No, I'm taking the Bills.
Okay, we got.
I don't know if I'm winning, but I have them covering.
The Crew's going with the Lions, and they're taking the Denver Broncos also. Like it or not, when we return. Welcome back to the original Rochester Press Box. It's Like It or Not. Like it or not, Roland, farewell tours, like Derek Jeter just went on.
I think it's entertaining. You know, as an athlete, I would assured like for my career to end not on a stretcher, but ending with me announcing I was going to have one more year of fun and then go out and play your best. I thought it was beautiful. Congratulations, Mr. Jeter.
One of Marv Levy's favorite philosophies was he contended that once you announce your retirement, you're as good as retired. You've already checked out. Do you find that to be the case?
That's just that's coach talk. Hey, coach, that's not how it is with players. You play hard every single time you go. Hey, I play tic-tac-toe and hard against my kids now. You go hard everything you do. It's not possible to just turn it down when you're really competing at the highest level.
You got in 8 great years. When you went off the field for the last time, was there any inclination in your mind that said that this might be it?
There was a lot of pain when I went off the field. I dislocated my knee. From the knee down, it was faced the opposite direction. Yeah. Here and obviously in the Meadowlands, actually. So ironically, my career ended in New York. And I thought I could come back and play, but after a year or so of rehab, I couldn't even beat 7th grade field hockey girls. So it was time for me to hang it up.
So it was the last thing, and I know this is uncomfortable memories, but
no, it's okay.
What was it like when you faced the fact that it's over?
I say it's like dating like the most unbelievable girl in school that everybody knows. And you get to be with her, and everyone knows that she's your girl, and she loves you, and you love her, and then one day you don't date her no more. And you can't be mad because you care about her still, but you don't, and it's just one of those things. And so I get to be by the game in other ways, and I get to share my experiences with others. So I'll always love the game. There's nothing like playing. There's no substitute for playing and all the excitement. That's why it ticks me off when I see guys like EJ who don't maximize their opportunity and give all their focus and commitment because you only have a small window to play.
Nicely said. John, like it or not, Michigan's football implosion.
What's there to like? I mean, this used to be...
Well, you're a Penn State guy.
Well, I don't even, as a Big Ten guy, I don't even take pleasure. I think the Big Ten, I think college football is better when Michigan, like when Notre Dame's winning, I think college football is better.
Right.
I think when Michigan's winning, the Big Ten's better, and I think college football, they used to be a top 10 program. They're not. Everyone's culpable, from the president to the athletic director, to the head coach, to the doctors, to the trainers. How you allow a quarterback, a player in this day and age, where there is such a focus on concussions, to not, I don't know, misdiagnose or not even notice that your quarterback is having issues. So Brady Hoke's not going to, he won't be back next year. I don't expect the athletic director will be there. But right now, Michigan is a mess. Hard to believe, since, Lloyd Carr stepped down after the 07 season. Michigan is barely a 500 football program.
No quick fix either.
No, that program, nobody, unless Jim Harbaugh comes to Michigan, could give that program a quick fix.
Danny, like it or not, Tom Brady's decline and the general position the New England Patriots find themselves in.
Well, I will say this: it's 4 weeks. When you've had the history of success that Belichick and Brady have had, I need more than 4 weeks before I'm buying in. Now, there's obviously a lot of concerns out there. They don't have a lot of talent, but they haven't had a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball for a number of years. He's been able to get by because he's just that good. So I want to see what they do these next couple of weeks before I'm jumping off the bandwagon. Like, I'm surprised that people are jumping off as quickly as they are because of who they are, Belichick and Brady. When you look at their history, 5 Super Bowl appearances, 3 Super Bowl wins, and they just win division titles when they wake up in the morning. That's just what the Patriots do. So it might be the worst division of football. I think it is right now.
Yes, it is.
So if the Patriots don't go out and win it, that says a lot about where they are at this point. But until that happens, I'm not buying into this whole thing that it's over for the Patriots. They don't have the talent they used to, but they've always been able to get by even without that talent. Last year, they didn't have it offensively either.
Yeah. Roland, can they bail themselves out of this, do you think?
I just don't think they have the tools to get it done. And you summed it up. It's like they've succeeded for so long. Every great reign of terror in professional sports ends at some point.
Reign of terror.
Yeah, it's been a reign of terror because I'm not a Patriot fan at all. I don't like them at all. Tuck Rule, remember, I've had many altercations with those guys.
I'll give you that.
But the point is that it's okay. They've dominated the NFL for a long time. Just like every other reign of terror, it's time for them to accept the decline and move on. And so, Tom, enjoy your games that you got years left in the league. You're not going back to the Super Bowl anytime ever again. That's over. And just accept that, play out the next 5 or 6 years, and then retire and enjoy your beautiful wife and home and all that good stuff.
All righty. Unfinished business when we return. Welcome back to the original Rochester Press Box. Bill with John, Dan, and Roland Williams, the great Super Bowl champion Roland Williams. Unfinished business, John, start us off.
You know, I was thinking about this the other night watching the Royals playoff game. The Buffalo Bills haven't been to the playoffs in 15 years. Kansas City last made it to the playoffs 30 years ago. It was 1985. Ronald Reagan was in office, and Back to the Future was the #1 ranked movie. Also, the Pittsburgh Pirates missed the playoffs every year since 1992. Now they're back in the postseason for the second straight year. And I watched the fans at Kauffman Stadium, and I'm going to watch the fans tonight or watch them when we're taping on Wednesday night at PNC Park, and how galvanized that crowd is going to be. And I got to thinking what the Ralph could possibly be like when the Bills ever do host the playoff game. So I know you're on 15 years, but things could be worse. You could be a Pirates fan or a Royals fan and have to wait 20 years, or in Kansas City's case, 30 years. Although I'm not a fan of the commissioner, that one-game wild card playoff, incredible for the game of baseball. Nobody watched the game on TBS except maybe us four, but it's great theater.
It was one of the great games I think I've ever seen. It was amazing.
That one game, it's fantastic. It's too bad they bury these games on TBS.
Yeah. Roland, what do you got?
As a professional athlete that played 8 years in the NFL, it is ridiculous how much I've been hearing and feeling the sentiment when an NFL player does something stupid in the community. From Ray Rice's shenanigans on to coaches making bad decisions off the field. Just because one guy at a job does something wrong does not mean that everyone at that job is doing something wrong. You see, stereotypes are bad no matter when we use them. And as an athlete, I wish we would cut it out. I wish we would judge people by the character of themselves, not the perception of what they do. I don't care if you're a plumber, a police officer, a doctor, or whatever. Wrong is wrong, and it should be held accountable the same for all of us.
Did you ever think as a player that, why do I have to answer to all these people? Why do I have to be the example that everybody sets?
Well, I think that to whom much is given, much is required. I do think that there is something to be said about being in the public eye and an obligation to help young people. In that same breath, though, every athlete, every person isn't from the same cloth. And if you're a different person, if you come from a different background, what you do at your job, does that mean who you are as a person? And I think that's something we have to tear that down. Because you're successful, you make millions of bucks, doesn't mean you're a good person. Because you can sing really well and perform, doesn't mean you're a good person. Because you can play football great, doesn't mean you're a great person. I think that we have to be able to look at each one separately and judge people on their merit.
Well, I'm a self-admitted golf geek, and outside of the 4 major championships, I get revved up for the Ryder Cup. I mean, when this thing comes around, we only get it every couple of years. And in my lifetime, I've been watching the United States get trounced year after year after year after year by Europe. And then after the Ryder Cup is over, I sit there and watch Phil Mickelson at the press conference with Tom Watson blaming basically his captain for the strategy they used rather than the fact that the golfers didn't come through. The problem is the golfers. I don't care what the captains do. I mean, it's kind of cool to see Watson out there. It was Azinger when they won a few years back. I don't really care about the captains. I care about the golfers. The golfers aren't living up to the expectations. I know they were the underdogs going in this year, and rightfully so. Europe's got the better team. But the golfers have to play better. The Ryder Cup is like a Sunday at a major championship. We have a bunch of guys that are good Friday to Saturday. This is like Sunday golf, though, with the atmosphere, with the pressure, and we have a bunch of guys that collapse on Sundays. Guys like Jim Furyk, guys like Hunter Mahan, who collapsed again. When a guy like Patrick Reed goes out there and he's doing all the what some people are calling shenanigans, when he's showing emotion, he's the one guy actually winning out there. The United States needs more of that. Europe has a ton of that. I think the camaraderie is obvious with Europe. The U.S. needs more of that. Take a page out of Europe's book. And show some of that emotion like we saw from Patrick Reed, but play some better golf and stop blaming your captains. It's not on the captain. It's on the golfers themselves.
We had talked a little bit about the farewell tours earlier. Derek Jeter's made me think about, who has done it better than Derek Jeter in terms of going out on top, and I came up with one name. Al McGuire. You might remember back in 1977, Al McGuire was the coach of the Marquette basketball team. Halfway through the season, announced that he was going to retire, and they went all the way to win the thing. Now, they weren't the favorite to do it. They wound up with 7 losses that year, which at that time was the most losses ever suffered by an NCAA champion. I got a chance to meet Al. He came to Rochester and did a banquet not too long after that, and he had told a great story. He used to recruit against Dale Brown at LSU, and he said, Dale Brown and I used to go after these guys all the time, and Dale would always recruit the kids saying, you know what they got in Milwaukee, which is where Marquette is, lots of snow. And says, but Al says, I could always come back. He says, you know what they got in Louisiana? And he'd tell the kids, snakes. He says, I beat him every time. Guys, thank you very much. John, great job. Danny, good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Super Bowl champion Roland Williams, great. Best of luck with the programs that you've got going this week. It was wonderful to have you on the show.
Great to be here.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week on the original Rochester Press Box.